Good evening. I would like to thank Belleville University and all the individuals that have contributed to this Empowering Grand Families group. The learning experience here with my colleagues, with the professors, with the investments, with all of the stakeholders, is truly created an organization that will give back. This cohort has encouraged me to create a nonprofit organization that will truly give back. And that's why we're here to discuss the Empowering Grand Families Group. The Empowering Grand Families Group build collaborative partnerships with agencies to engage, to enlighten, and encourage multi-generational families during the segment of life that they need most hope. 60 million Americans live in multi generational homes. 7.8 million live in households headed by grandparents or some form of a grand family. Most of the time, they're relatives. Grand families are individuals that come together in order to form a family unit. In our own neighborhood, one of the 21-year-olds, both his parents died and he adopted his brother. Now that is a grand family, a family that is using all of the resources in order to survive. For every child being raised in foster care system, there's nearly 25 that are being raised by grandparents or other relatives. Grandparents save taxpayers $6.5 billion each year by keeping children out of the foster care system. Grand Families Groups of America reports that 2.7 million grandparents provide for the basic need. Yet 60% of these grandparents have to return to work, and 21% of these grand families live below the poverty line. This information, these statistics, are supported by the United States Census Bureau. This startup situation is to engineer a business environment of accountability and application that can be applied to Empowering Grand Families Group, or EGG. This has moved a concept to reality, and the reality is that these families need help. The culture in which EGG will behave and occupy and work with as a highly functioning nonprofit organization is to serve the need of these struggling families. The issues that are facing our families today is educational issues, social issues, aging issues. They create barriers for our families, barriers that a lot of times really take our children off track from being successful. When we talk about Empowering Grand Families Group and some of the strategies that we'll be using, they're going to be qualitative and quantitative data that is collected from different agencies, and we're going to extract the truth from those things. Empowering Grand Families Group is committed to resolving these issues with techniques that are transparent to all stakeholders, thus building a relationship with our stakeholders. This nonprofit organization will measure our performance, our outcomes, and our ethics. And we're talking about ethics that keep us on track. We want to truly invest in these families, and this is a decision that is truly making a difference. They say that pictures is worth 1,000 words. When we look at the effect of Empowering Grand Families Group and how, in fact, that these two young men were so excited to practice some young entrepreneur skills. They made candles. See, Empowering Grand Families Group will identify and develop key performance indicators that will keep us on track. It will increase our productivity while addressing some of the basic needs that are outlined by our stakeholders. a systematic diagnostic approach of analyzing our decisions and how we extract the truth from those is something that's going to truly power empowering grand families group. We're talking about management and the mechanisms of accountability that serves. The decision making the decision making process for empowering grand families group will be engineered through self-governance, self-regulations, and transparency. The Empowering Grand Families groups, the objective is to create systems where family behaviors will produce sustainability in social, educational, and economical practices. See, building sustainability for these families so that they can truly weather the storm that rages against them. The, the strategic planning and capacity building is to increase the effectiveness of our nonprofit organizations so that we can achieve our mission. You know, we talk about empowering grand families group and making them very successful. It's going to take a lot of planning, but it's going to take a lot of execution. When we talk about empowering grand families group, we'll build an environment through the growth practices that are outlined in the 6 practices of highly impact nonprofits. The 6 practices that are outlined is avocation between the different agencies, the governmental agencies, the paradigm shift in the market, being able to collaborate and work together, with some of the other nonprofits within our organization. Increasing the stakeholders by going ahead and making sure that their experiences are meaningful. See, when in fact that our stakeholders understand truly and they get their hands in there and understand why it's so important for them to give, they will support the cause. See, we're going to build alliances with and nurture some of those other nonprofits in our community that are doing a great job. Empowering Grand Families Group is going to build an adaptive environment, an environment that adapts to the situations that are being raised against our family. We're going to utilize strategies that foster a spirit of shared leadership within our community. Collaborative meetings will be held so that we can examine the following areas, some of the nonprofit organizations in our community. We're going to look at our bylaws, always going back. We're going to make sure that we match up to our mission statement, our performance dashboards. We'll measure those things. Some of the selection of the board, later on in our slide, we'll look at some of their job descriptions as board members. We're going to look at some of the board committees and how their job descriptions line up, collaborating agencies, and our budget process. The families need a bridge against these icy waters as they're traveling on their journey to success. Empowering Grand Families Group will build collaborative partnerships with these agencies. We're going to engage, enlighten, and encourage these families to be able to turn that frigid situation into a warmth where they can be successful. Empowering Grand Families Group, when we look at these pictures here, we see how different ages, the social economics, the way that we perform is going to be something that is going to be great. Empowering Grand Families Group has a business plan that is managed through our strategy-minded leadership to solidify the following: educational structure, the bylaws, the budget management, the performance dashboards, and also the logic models. Our board and our selection process includes a job description, a performance analysis, expectations for our committees, the board agencies, the platforms. We're including some of the interdependent strategies where some of our experts, our ACEs in our community have already went through some of those things. And we need that leadership minded to speak into some of the lives of the families here. See, we assembled a team that is going to be successful and they're going to be able to meet some of the state and federal regulations. Our focus is to create a world class organization that will be self sufficient, self governing, and will supply the needs of our community. When we talk about empowering Grand Families Group, we're talking about people that will affect the young people in our community today. Empowering Grand Families Group recognizes the potential of donors. The funding process is a great way to begin this, recognizing and prioritizing some of our goals and some of the ways that we, operate. It's going to be like a 6-step approach with our donors. We're going to take these things seriously and take our donors seriously. The donors are identified as individuals that financially support our community. A relationship with these individuals is something that is bar none. It's going to be a natural thing to support that within our community. The Empowering Grand Families Group, the recognition of some of the donors comes out in our stewardship, the relationships that we have with our donors. We want to keep them engaged. This MPO is going to really be excited about establishing specific strategies that are targeted at cultivating long-term donor loyalty and donor experience. See, when we look at our bylaws, it has some of our officers, the city. We look at the nonprofit purpose. We look at our board of directors, their qualifications, what they're bringing to the table, some of their duties, their terms. We want to match people. I say we put our aces in their places. We're going to keep excellent records of compliance. We're going to increase our membership. We're going to have collaborative platforms with those experienced individuals within our community. See, you know what? It's not really truly about us, holding on to our stake in the community. But you know what? It's exposing our families to those experts in our community, the ones at the college level, the ones at our high school level, the ones that are in school. Those are the things that people need. And our officers are going to be making sure that we get that. We're going to have regular board members, innovative board members, the commissions, the trustees, and some of the special events that we're going to do in order to raise money. And then Article 12 always comes out is that we always have to measure it. So that's why our amendments was definitely going to be there. Collaborative partnerships such as Empowering Grand Families Group is going to be a great thing in our community. Grandparents find themselves unequipped to raise these children in today's society, so many of them have to return to school. So when we look at some of the things that can help them to navigate between the icy waters, is truly being able to have an educational expert on our board. The collaboration between this collaboration with some of the human resources in our community will help with housing. It's going to help with other agency needs that our families face. Performance is a partnership. When we understand that partnerships with agencies, it enlightens our families and our community. We're an innovative platform of community resources that we're going to use to connect our families to a better life. The Empowering Grand Families Group platform of this community will connect our families over and over to a better life. Some of the transfer grants that we work with comes from bridges in our community, the Council on Aging. We have Save Our Neighborhood Sons and Daughters that work with, the youth. We look at Port Huron area schools. We look at Lake Huron Medical, that's going to bring that holistic approach. We look at Keller and Williams, the real estate individuals that help us with first time buyers. They have excellent programs that are going. And we're looking at some of the economic development agency alliance that is in our community that would aid our families in sustaining first time buyers. Our board of directors, as discussed earlier, this is one of our example of how, in fact, that we're asking our board to be committed financially, with their attendance, their views. This is an example of one of our contracts that our board members will sign, so that we can keep it all fresh and we can keep everything up to date. We want people to be committed because we're going to be committed to you. Our board of directors, once again, this is the mission statement. We'll have one-on-one sessions where we can find out, is there anything that we are doing wrong? Is there any other adequate resources? Is there some assets that need to be protected or haven't been protected? We always want to make sure that we're evaluating. These are a couple of our performance dashboards. This is an example here where we have a 15-month dashboard that's going there. This one is evaluating some of our board members and their partnerships. This brings us to the budget. This right here is a budget where we're asking in 2017, our estimated budget was $214,034, and we estimate that to be up about $3,000 for 2018. We're basically going to end this year with about $176,000. In our expenses and revenue. So we're basically going to be balancing ourselves off. So we look to expand a little bit more on the next year. When we look at our building fund and our reinvestment, that's where that money went back into that line item. And we had $33,000 in 2017. And we're looking to increase that. We're always looking to manage that. Family outreach is another area that we're gonna, be coming in there. We already have some commitments from our donors, increasing our web. We have our golf outing that oh my God, we did a great job this year, and we blew that component away. So we have people in our community that really, really, really want to be committed to empowering Grand Families Group. If we look at our bottom line here, we are way on target to bring more to the bottom line here. We had a surplus of $492 in 2017, and as I stated earlier, we're on track to increase that with about $22,000 added to that number. So we're pretty excited about that at the Empowering Grand Families Group. See, let's not lose sight of why we're here. We know budgets steer us, but budget is only a vehicle to get us to where we need to go. This is where we need to go. Empowering Grand Families Group builds an important bridge, a collaborative partnership to engage, enlighten, and empower and encourage these families in this rough part of their life. Say we look at some of the revenue sources and we notice that there are four major gifts that are crucial. Those are the four major gifts that really made it great for us. We found a grant writer. We have created a position where we have an excellent director, an administrative assistant. These are some of the key elements that we have that's going to really bring us to the bottom line. Say we can't really look at our strengths without looking at the totality of what our agency is going through. When we look at our SWOT analysis shows us right here is that the statements, that as it relates to our strength, we have great partnerships with various agencies within our community. Empowering Grandfamilies Group is very excited about truly looking at the picture of where we are. When we talk about our SWOT analysis, it revealed some opportunities as it relates to our startup, our cost, our strength, some of the partnerships with various agencies in our community, our needs assessment. It revealed the need for the aging families. We look at some of our strengths as how we partner with communities and different things. But some of our weaknesses really showed up, like our capital gain. We looked at our staffing, our inner threats of our culture, and our methodology, the way that we operate and do business. See, we're going to have to change in some of those things because, our weaknesses are that we don't put that reputation out there. We don't have an opportunity to market that because, as our capital is very short right now, the marketing is not there. But we know through shared relationships, we can market that piece. We have enough people talking on the ground, but we don't have enough dollars behind it right now. See, we want to be a good citizen. And right now, I can't say that that's one of our strengths as being a good citizen because we'll maximize every dollar in order to give back. We're talking about some of our opportunities. We got the pro bono lawyers available now, the in-kind office spacing that is there for our internet use. We have the Blue Water area, the incubator, looking at some of our families with the entrepreneurship and some of our threats. The threats that come is once again, it's the revenues, it's the money, it's the sustainable income that we're looking for. We're looking for, qualified employees. Unqualified employees will make unquantified decisions. We're talking about limited revenue and resource for sustainable salaries within our community. The analysis clearly indicates the need for our organization to be existing in our community. The narrative shows about some of the ways that we can balance that with the lawyers and the incubator and the mentor opportunity that is there. See, we want these families to be able to weather the storm. And in order for them to weather the storm, we're going to have to take serious those things that came out in our SWOT analysis. Say revenue sources that are empowering the Grandfamilies Group. We look at the summary of the things that builds or enhances our agency, our board. Yeah, the result of the Empowering Grandfamilies Group SWOT analysis shows how, in fact, that, it can build or enhance, what we're doing. We have a awesome board of directors. When we look at reducing or eliminating some of the things that goes forth is the expenditures and the unimproved, they must be approved by the board. Some of the things that we're exploring are, over promising and under and delivering. We want to under deliver. We want to under promise and over deliver in our services. One of the other things that we have been looking at is our media exposure with our interviews. As we bring those individuals, those sharp individuals on board, we can do local radio station ads that we just found out will not cost us anything. So we want to build and let folks know. We have a great underground where the families know that we're here, but we want to make sure that we market that component so that our investors know that we're here. Empowering Grandfamilies Group, I'm telling you, the partnerships that are built, the enlightenment, the encouragement, the engagement of these families that are out here are building a life that is set up to win. See, we want our members in Empowering Grandfamilies to know that they are a winner. Say, listen to the testimonies. Don't take my word for it. Listen to some of these testimonies that are going on all over the world dealing with grandfamilies.
Angry to see how these grandparents are living. They don't know where to turn to
to even talk to somebody, because there is nothing for the grandparents.
If you're in the foster care system, then you're eligible for foster care payments. But if you're just have custody of your child, you don't necessarily have to be a part of the foster care system, so there's no financial subsidies for you.
There is a guideline for kinship care that the federal government has, but then each state is to adopt their own. And that's where we're running into problems. I don't think.
See, we want individuals to be empowered to jump over their problems, not run into them. We want families to be equipped, to be empowered, to be engaged in order to truly become overcomers. We can hear that there is no subsidy when it comes to foster care, but yet 60 million Americans live in these multi-generational homes and they have problems. 7.8 million live in households headed by grandparents. And you've seen these grandparents and you've seen the frustration on their faces, but no help. See, nearly 25 are being raised by grandparents or relatives. And the lady said that they don't know which way to turn. They have to be able to turn to a resource that will empower them to be successful. Empowering Grandfamilies Group has moved from conception to reality because of the work and the teamwork that's here from the Belleville University and this awesome cohort that has empowered me to empower others. See, Empowering Grandfamilies Group objective is being accomplished because the development of family behaviors that's going to produce sustainability has begun. I just want to thank everyone for their awesome feedback and work in empowering grandfamilies.